Am I hallucinating here? Just what in the hell do you think you are doing?
I can't believe you.
I'm not reading. I'm just looking at the picture.
Welcome to the cold, hard truth on sports.
Welcome all to another week of the Cold Hard Truth on Sports here on the Go Along Media channel on blogtalkradio.com. I understand that some of you over on YouTube are having a bit of technical difficulties. Looks like the microphone. We're working on getting those worked out for you. Back home, I'm home in Florida. Yes, I left safety of the Midwest where there are no hurricanes to come to Florida where the angriest, strongest hulk of a storm is heading our way. And that's why I do sports. Anyways, much smarter people with a lot of cool machines and what they call spaghetti projections are saying that Hurricane Irma has reached this threshold as the strongest storm on record. At least that's what. Maybe it's hyperbole. I don't know. I haven't fact checked it. That's just what they're saying. All right, and it's heading for a place that I do know well and hold dear to my heart, which is the island in the Caribbean of Puerto Rico, where I lived for a short period of time. So a lot of friends there, and I've been reaching out, wishing them well, kind of in a way preparing myself. Just got in today. We flew in through Daytona and drove back from Daytona, and it's crazy the way. I mean, it was like this when I was in the Midwest. There's a blizzard coming. Everybody clears the shelves. And I get, you want to be prepared instead of unprepared. I get that. But the thing is, if you live in a city, which most people do, statistically, live in a city, you have water that if the power goes out, you just turn on your water and the water comes out. It's kind of cool like that. If you do not live in a city, you may not be as fortunate. If you lose electricity, you could lose water. And people are like, well, how do you mean? Because people in cities that don't live in cities typically have a well. And there has to be a pump that's powered by electricity to bring the water up from the well. So, that is a problem for most of the state because most of the state is not a city in the sense of actual land coverage. So, we don't know what's going to happen. A lot of what I've seen, I'm not a meteorologist. Like I said, they got smarter people on that. That's why I'm doing sports, because I like sports, really. That's what it was. I could probably do that, but still, it's looking somewhat like it could either. The crazy thing is, here's the thing is, if you're a meteorologist, you have to have one of the most cushiest jobs ever. You go to school, you get paid more than everybody else in a newsroom, and you don't even have to bat, 3%. you have computer models and stuff that does a lot of the work, right? And when something like a hurricane comes, you don't really have to you don't have to be precise exact at all. I mean, you can't really be, but you don't, because when you have an American model, a European model, I think it's odd that there's a European model for hurricanes. I don't know if there's ever been hurricanes that have hit Europe. At least I've never heard of any. Maybe we'll Google it. Maybe it's my ignorance. But they have a model. They like weather, I guess, and they're good with algorithms, so they got their own. And we have these. Excuse me. There's the spaghetti models that have the hurricane going every which way. What's certain is the island of Puerto Rico is going to get hit. They're going to get walloped by a Category 5 hurricane that is the strongest that it's on record. Winds over, what they're saying is over 185 miles per hour. To give you an idea, that's roughly the speed, more or less, that NASCAR drives at in any given lap. They're pushing that sort of speed on a track. Hurricane force speeds. That's what they do. And if you get hit with anything at 185 miles an hour, even if it's just wind, you're probably going to get knocked on your ass. So, how do trees and buildings and stuff fare of getting pounded with swirling 185 mile an hour winds? How do roofs hang on? Because that's really what it is at the point. You hope your ass is strapped to something that is more rigid than you are. That's kind of what it is. It makes me think of that the movie Twister, where they went into the barn. They used leather straps to strap themselves to a pipe in the barn. The barn blows away, and they're hooked on with leather straps, like flailing in the wind as the tornado goes over them. So you get some tornadoes within hurricanes. I'm from Nebraska. Experienced plenty of tornadoes, but I've only been through one hurricane. That was Danny in 2015 when I lived in Puerto Rico. I slept through it. To be frank with you, I slept through the hurricane. It was windy, but it wasn't anything too crazy. I lost an awning. It wasn't even my awning. I wasn't even aware that the awning that we had was not hurricane tested or proof. I was not prepped on awning maintenance or hurricane prep with awnings, so it got broke. So that's why you gotta let people know when they're using your stuff. Hey, this is how you gotta do. Most people don't know what the heck to do with an awning. I didn't. Anyways, but Irma coming through could go up the coastline like Hurricane Matthew did last year. We could see it go circle around and hit the west coast. We could see it go right up the middle of Florida a long ways. We could see it just plow through Florida, the south tip of Florida and Cuba, and then get back in the Gulf and get stronger, and then hit Houston again, or New Orleans, or anywhere else in the Gulf there, or decide to turn, we'll go to Mexico. Like, it could literally, like, this is what they're saying. It's strong, has a full head of steam, and it could, we don't know. It could go anywhere. We don't know where it's going to go, but we think it's probably going to hit Florida at some capacity. They know it's going to hit Florida at some capacity. Marion County. Let me put it this way. If you're in Marion County and you're listening to my show live right now, get the F out. It is a mandatory evacuation by, Wednesday morning. Was it Wednesday morning or Wednesday night? By tomorrow. Basically, you need to get the F out by tomorrow. It's mandatory. You cannot be in the Florida Keys. If anybody had planned on coming to Florida on vacation this weekend, I'm sorry. Well, we didn't see that on AccuWeather. Oh, by the way, on the back end, there's a tropical storm that is starting up behind Irma. They're saying it probably, hopefully, spins off into the Atlantic and doesn't do anything. But it's right behind it. And from my time in Daytona and watching the sport of NASCAR and car racing, there's an effect called drafting. And when airflow moves in one way with two masses that are not so far apart, one tends to carry the other. Let's hope it doesn't happen. Let's hope Irma decides to chill out here in the next few days. Land, when hurricanes hit land, we typically see them die down. That's why they're saying once it's hit like Dominican Republic and Cuba and part of Florida, that it will die down to a Category 4. So they're predicting it could stay at a 5 and just plow through it and do, I don't know, nobody knows what could happen. So I'm going to hold on tight right here, and we're going to do the show hopefully next Tuesday. As long as I have internet signal, I plan on doing the show. If it's in 2 feet of water, I'll make sure the outlets are grounded. Or we'll take the show on the road or something. I don't know. For those of you that are wondering, what is recommended is that you get inland. So in the middle, away from water. You know, like the same way they say go to the center of the house, away from windows and glass. Same thing with water. If you don't want flood, go inland. You're less likely to have flood. You're less likely to have flood if you're inland. It's away from where water is. It's kind of a funny thing. You go to land and there's not water. I don't know. Kind of a novel concept. But you run from flood and you hide from wind. So that's generally the rule of thumb. To use a better phrase, general rule, standard operating procedure is you run from water and you hide from wind. Because water will come find you, wind will just keep going by. So, I will hide from wind. So hopefully the house that I'm in was built well. I don't know. I didn't build this house. It's not my house. Most everything's built with brick here. So, and everything since 1996, I think, has been required to have hurricane straps or strips or brackets put on the roof to help make sure wind doesn't take the house away. So, just to clear that up. All right, I want to get into sports very much. This week is pretty much going to be solid on college football, or football in general, but mostly college football. We had an opening week that some say was really boring. Some have really not appreciated the opening week of college football. I enjoyed it. I was in Lincoln, as I was saying for the last few weeks. But first, hold on a second. I'm getting some breaking news in here. All right, some breaking news here, not weather related, but having to do with Texas, not Houston. The NFL has decided to uphold Ezekiel Elliott's 6-game suspension. This is a process that went really quick. I think the next thing that he can do was upheld by an arbitrator. Despite decision, Ezekiel Elliott will be ineligible. Despite decision, he will be eligible for Week 1 against the Giants. So it's kind of a quirky situation. I'll get you some more on that. Here later on in the show. But just to let you know, Ezekiel Elliott's suspension is to be upheld. His 6-game ban will be upheld by the NFL. And I'll explain a little bit more on that here later in the show. But opening week of college football that some thought was pretty blah. The rankings didn't change a ton. We saw Florida State fall down several spots after their loss this weekend, and a huge opening week gamble, losing 24-7 against Alabama. For all intents purposes, it was a pretty neutral site game. Both teams were pretty well represented, but Alabama historically is very well off in neutral field games. And, I would say one of the credits that I'd give Nick Saban to his preparation of teams is he learned from Bob Devaney and Tom Osborne during Nebraska's reign in the 90s of practicing and being able to get the most in and the most out of players through strength, conditioning, play repetition, and through coaching and mentoring. So they've been able, in the recruiting process too, they've been able to do something more than Nebraska was able to do during that era, and that is getting in higher, more talented recruits. Nebraska got in good recruits. They gained fans all over the country. Actually, this weekend I took my kids on a tour of Memorial Stadium, so they got to go play on the field, which was a blast. And one of the guys that was there with me, he was serving in the Marines, so he was back, and he wanted to go to a Nebraska game. He's from Pennsylvania, and he grew up a Nebraska fan in Pennsylvania. Just throughout that era of Nebraska, just consistently, well, they pretty much every year have consistently won 8-9 games a year. With exception, probably, I think, 4 seasons since the sellouts. That's the thing is, the consistency has been sellouts since 62 and winnings, 8-win seasons every year since 62, with exception of maybe 4 years, 5 years over that period of time. It's pretty, when you look at it, it's pretty phenomenal. But I asked him, I was like, what's this like? You've never been here. You're going through the stadium the day before the game. You're seeing some of the guys in the weight room. You can see some of the guys, coaches and stuff, come by. And see some of the walkthrough stuff and some of the build up to the game. And it's a night game. I said, what's it like? He said, it's like Disney. His words, not mine. I live in Florida, so I know what the hell Disney's about. People are freaking bat wacky over Disney. But he said, it's like Disney. To go through the stadium. To see the training center, where they work out, they train, the coaches' offices, the walls, plural, of trophies and championships, the 5 national championship trophies, right when you walk in the building, the statue out front of Brooke Berringer and Tom Osborne, to see on the other end of the stadium a statue of Bob Devaney, all this history of decades of football all packed in and presented. Being able to see the 3 Heisman trophies and a presentation on the 3 Heisman Trophy winners from Nebraska. So it's very interesting to kind of walk through and see it, be able to be down on the field. It's a bit different thing. It's fun for somebody that has wanted to see something like that all their life to finally get to it. I understand how he could feel like it is Disney. Now, I grew up there. I worked for some time at the University of Nebraska. I was enrolled in the school there, so I understand it in a bit more intimate way than he does, and it's still special walking through. But I can really relate, though, for him going through for the first time, being able to see this. But the work regimen, the practice, the way the strength and conditioning and stuff put in, that's something that Saban himself, he attributes to what Nebraska did in the 90s, and I think that's what they've continued to do at Alabama and have been very successful doing so, on top of being able to be in the top 5 in recruiting pretty much every year for the last decade. They have lifted the brand of the SEC in more of a way than pretty much any other team has lifted a conference. Now, I know a lot of people say, oh, well, Florida's always been competitive. Or you've always had other SEC teams like LSU have been very competitive. Georgia's been competitive. I hear you. I don't disagree with you. But those teams have had their lulls. And none of those teams have been consistently in the top 3 every single year for a decade. And that's something that's pretty big for 8 years. You know, is it 8 years? Almost a decade. So that's something that's really tough to do and tough to maintain. Again, understanding that when you achieve something, an achievement in and of itself, you've done something, and you did it well enough that you got to where your goal was. That's an achievement, you know. I mean, I see these guys out here talking about success. Oh, where's your bank account? Cash flow. That's success. It's monetary success in some way. But success isn't accomplishing a goal. Success is sustaining that goal and that accomplishment over time. Success is non-linear, like time. So, you know, you've done something, you can be successful, meaning you accomplish something, but to be truly successful is being able to sustain it over time. So, again, there's a lot to unpack with the context behind success. I was talking the other day, the guy said, you think Nebraska's a successful program? And yeah, they are. I mean, when you average 8 to 9 wins a season for 6 decades, almost 6 decades, it's 5 decades. Is that what the math is on that? Okay, whatever. 5 decades. Over 5 decades. Yeah, that's successful. That's sustainability. And, you know, Bob Devaney, Tom Osborne, Frank Solich, Bill Callahan, Bo Pelini, and now Mike Riley. So, 6 head coaches in 50 years. And the crazy thing is, 25 of those years was Tom Osborne. So, he was over half of that time. And since Tom Osborne, coaches really haven't lasted much over that 3-year mark. 3 to 5 years is what people are looking at and wanting to see what is coming, where they're going to get. Because once someone has accomplished something, anybody, once you've done something, you know you can do it. And if you've repeated it many times, you know that it is that much more accomplishable. So, for over a decade, late 80s through the 90s into the early 2000s, to have a school being right there nearly half the time, either winning or compete half the time in a 10-year span from 1990 to 2000. They won 3 national titles, and they were there competing for, I think, another 4 national titles. So if 70% of the time, you're competing for the national title and you're winning about half the time as you compete for it, that's a pretty big thing. And when your generation grows up with that, or you get used to that, and See, this is why I think that the value of head coaches is so underrated in college sports. Because the athletes are not professionals. They are amateurs. Regardless of how much skill they have and regardless of how much money is made. They are amateurs. The professional in that is the coach. They are the experienced person. They're the mentor, you know. That's why I've never had issue with college coaches making so much money. I haven't. I don't. I don't think that they should be taxpayer paid. It should be paid through the school's athletic department budget, but it shouldn't be paid through the subsidies. But I don't have a problem with them being paid. And I don't have a problem with college athletes not getting paid to play football. Now, their likeness, earning money off their likeness, or if they have a business, that's a completely different thing. Again, the issue that came up with the kid with Donald De La Hayes from Central Florida was that his YouTube channel was in his likeness. His likeness was kicker for UCF. That was his likeness. You used his likeness to earn money, literally. And that is exactly what the NCAA said you cannot do. It's not really a workaround for that. So that's why they asked him to give the money back through charity instead of giving it back to Google, because they can't give it back to Google. But give it back through charity. A few $1,000s you've made off it. It's nothing remarkable. But it was a rule violation. Now, had he just made it, if he had not used his name or his likeness, if he could be in the videos. He could literally be in the videos, but he can't identify who he is or how he does what he does, you know, because saying he's a kicker is his likeness. Saying that his name is his likeness. You know, if he goes in as the masked kicker, he's fine, because he's a masked kicker. His likeness is not revealed. Or a superhero kicker. Something like that. If he made it corny and he did not, infringe on the likeness thing, he could have kept the money to begin with. He could have incorporated it to begin with too. But again, these are simple business things that, one, are not taught in our schools. How to form a corporation, how to structure the corporations between LLC, S Corp, stuff like that. Stuff's not taught in schools. These are simple things that every CPA should be going over business owners with. If you are a sole proprietor and you're making over $10,000 a year, you should be incorporated through an LLC and having it zero out to an S Corp. Ask any certified public accountant. They will tell you that. So, it's stuff like that. And, I mean, we're divulging off the beaten path here. And yes, I'm looking at the messages over here. If you want to message me, you can message me at Matt Long Sports, as well as hit up the show at the CHT on Sports. And we are syndicated, simulcast as we are every weekend. We're over on the Spreaker, live on the Spreaker app. If you want to listen on the Spreaker app, Hangouts, Google Hangouts or Google Hangouts, YouTube Live. We're there, as well as blogtalkradio.com as always. Forgive me, I've been up since 3 o'clock. 3 o'clock this morning to catch a flight to come back to Florida to prepare for a hurricane. It's been a long day, so but simple business stuff like that. Now, I know I've digressed off topic, but I want to get back over to the game. It seemed like a pretty one-sided game the entire game, and I was keeping track of it because, of course, if I'm in Lincoln, Nebraska, covering this game, there's really not anywhere you're going to be able to watch this. Doesn't matter. My goodness. There's not really anywhere you can go watch that particular game, as it is. So, I was watching part of the game with friends, actually. And I was second quarter, before half. It was just after half. I went up and asked. I said, hey, listen, I was wondering where the Alabama FSU game is. Can you put it on? And you got 5 TVs in a row. Maybe one of them have, I don't know, FSU Alabama. And they looked at me crazy. And I was like, okay, dumb question. My bad. God forbid I want to see what number 1 and number 3 are looking like while I'm watching Nebraska play Arkansas State. Which, by the way, I'll get into that, and it kind of unfolded the way that I expected. But, again, I'll get into that here a little bit later in the show. Just before half. So just after half, I think third quarter, Nebraska was on a drive. And there was they made a reception, and then it switches over to Alabama FSU. And the score-wise, it was not a close game. It wasn't a close game on the scoreboard. But you felt like the feeling was like the feeling was like you could hope for FSU to get back in it until their quarterback goes down. Out for the year. Out for the year. So, before that, I mean, you're figuring Florida State might be able to get back in this. And then you just see that it is just not in the cards at all for them to get back in it. Again, you know, to have your star quarterback go down in the fourth quarter. I mean, you're already down. Well, it was already down 21-7. Feel like a comeback. It's just kind of great. You see him throwing the ball away, tucking it, and he gets a tackle from behind, and it's just bye-bye knee, bye-bye season. Carted off. And his replacement just wasn't ready for the task. And I think partially to blame that the reason for DeAndre Francois his downfall is the man bun. In all seriousness, I really think that if as someone in a professional sport who's a quarterback decides to wear a man bun, some people rock man buns and they look good doing it. Some people rock man buns and not so much. The people that do it and do it well, it's sort of their thing. And it should be left to them. But they are in the most minority of people. As Bernie would put it, it's the 1% of the 1% of the 1%. You know, that's what the fraction of the population that can do man buns is 1% of 1% of the 1%. And DeAndre is not part of that minority, unfortunately, and should never wear that out in public again. So, the stadium looked nice, though. Heard really good things about the Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta. I look forward to going up there in January for the national championship game. Working on getting all that stuff ironed out here in the next few months. We're only a few months away. It's crazy to think how quick and how long it sometimes feels of a football season. I mean, we've waited. We wait longer for football to start, it seems like. I mean, you got February, March, April, May, June, July, August. Seven months. You wait for football. So you can watch it for 4.5 months. It's incredible. But you turn on baseball, they're talking about them coming in February and in March, spring training, and then they're playing. They're still playing. And then when no other sports are playing, they're playing. And then other sports are starting up again and they're still playing. And then you get into football season and the start of the NBA season. And then the playoffs start. And then you got the World Series. And then you have Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's. And they're coming back for spring training again. It's crazy. It's like 3 months off. And it's like they took off 3 months to watch football so they can get back to playing baseball. It's crazy, you know. But the NBA and NFL, to their credit, has found a way, despite the NFL especially, despite having only 4.5 months of actual watchable football, they're relevant 11 months out of the year. The NBA has done a pretty good job of that as well. Free agency has been an interesting topic. Now the summer leagues this year, the best ratings in the summer leagues history, and we'll see. Hopefully, with more and more of these franchises catching on with owning their G League team, which not all of them do, believe it or not. They don't own the subsidiary, but it's catching on. So we might see more and more. More and more of the G League becoming more popular as well. So the NFL, NBA, and it's pretty much a big gap between everything after that, as far as in sports popularity in the United States. However, I did not get to talk about it last week because I was out with my children. It was their birthday. They turned 5. My twins turned 5. So I did not have a show last week. I do have, but it was Conor McGregor and Floyd Mayweather. For those of you that took my tip and betted on Conor McGregor to win 1, 2, or 3 rounds, you clearly made money. And then on top of that, if you coupled it with a bet for Floyd to win, you made more money. Where people might have lost money on, my advice was it going the distance. Now, I knew Floyd was going to do what he was going to do. I knew the first 5 rounds were up for grabs. I knew that. Because every fight Floyd is in, the first 5 rounds are up for grabs. If you beat Floyd, you have to win the early rounds and score a knockdown. Which, even if you do score the knockdown, you may not score the knockdown. You may get maybe technically a knockdown, but out of all the times of his career, they haven't been recorded but once. So, I pretty much understood that coming into it. He took some shots at the beginning. He's a showman. He came forward. He didn't do a lot of moving and ducking, and his typical defensive fighting is pretty much straightforward, right in front of him. If he spent too much time trying to duck and dodge him in the early rounds, one, he wouldn't get as tired, or may not get as tired. It may not be as interesting of an event. And 3, people won't feel like they got their money's worth. I think most people feel like they got their money's worth out of the main event. The rest of the fights, I'm not quite sure. I feel like the rest of the card was kind of lackluster. No offense to anybody else on the card, but for as big of a spectacle as this fight was supposed to be, boxing, at least at the top end, kind of boycotted the event. And that's something that I think was a huge miss on the part of boxing. To get $80 million at the gate. $80 mil at the gate is not something that anybody's ever done. I mean, it was $72 million at the gate for Pacquiao. $72 million. He did 80. He did 8 million more at the gate. Most fights don't get anywhere close to the 8 million at the gate. Let alone 8 million more. Or 80 million at the gate. So for the worry about are people going to show up or not, they did. They showed up for the second to last fight and the main event. That's it. For the most part, the arena was empty for the undercard. For the most part, it was empty for the undercard. And that says a lot about the name recognition on the undercard. I think this was the biggest miss for Deontay Wilder. He is, for those of you that don't know, because most people don't know that are sports fans, who he is, but he's the WBC World Heavyweight Champion. He's undefeated, and all but one fight has ended in him knocking his opponent out in 30-some bouts. Pretty amazing. His level of competition has been, how do I put this kindly, lackluster. We'll go with lackluster. I have some more forceful words that I would like to, that are maybe even more appropriate, but lackluster. Despite if anybody wanted to fight him or not, more fights, the better. If you want people to tune in to watch you fight Parker, or as I have understood that they're reaching an agreement for him to fight Ortiz, or to see you fight Anthony Joshua, or Pulev, if the top guys, if you want to draw people to fight those, they need to see you fight first. I'm gonna double check. I'm gonna double check this real quick because I don't remember the exact number. So okay. Let me check out this. Deontay Wilder's highest rating fight. Everything has been on free TV for him. Everything. Okay. So his highest rating was 1.5 million people tuned in to see him beat Spilka, which is probably skill-wise, probably one of the highest skill-wise guys he's fought. Dual laps, I guess he averaged 2.2. So let's say again 2.2. Let's say it's 2.5, right? 2.5, 2.2, 2.5. Okay, so on pay-per-view buys, now that's free TV. That's, you can watch it on the ESPN app. You can watch it on PBC.com. that you can watch it on your television, on ESPN, or Fox, or where else? NBC, I think they also had it on. That's it being available for you, not for $100, $60 to $100. You know, that's it being available to you for free, basically for free. So he got 2.2 million viewers, average viewers. Floyd did 4.6 million pay-per-view buys. So that's roughly, if you take that into viewer ratings, because a household could represent 1 or it could represent 5. So as far as households go, looking at it mathematically, I mean, he did about, in viewers, and this is being probably pretty liberal, he probably did a sixth of what Mayweather did. A sixth. And his was free. He was giving it away. Yes, the quality of his competition has been an issue. Some of it, maybe because his competition doesn't want to fight him. I don't think he's been very well marketed. So his WBC title, since it's the only title he holds, and the other titles have been united, either with Fury or Klitschko. Basically had all the other belts. Anthony Joshua, he's held multiple belts. He holds multiple belts. So he's had one belt. Maybe it's one of the most historic belts, being the WBC belt, but he, by the way, 4.6 was Pacquiao. Let me see what McGregor was. It was higher than that for McGregor. I'll get it here in a minute. But that was the Pacquiao fight. 6.5 million. Roughly 6.5 million pay-per-view buys. That's up 2.3 million from the Pacquiao fight. For a fight where a guy was in his debut, was not a boxer, and everybody pretty much understood what was going to happen. 6.5 million people. No, 6.5 million buys. That's not people. That's just buys. And any of you that bought it, any of the 6.5 million people you bought it, you probably just didn't buy it for yourself. Most people had a family or a party. So we're talking probably between 3 to 20 people watching. You know? So 2.2 million viewers is good on free TV. But, I mean, 6.5 million pay-per-view buys. It is phenomenal. It's a record. It's never been done. Mayweather did it again. He's broken the record 3 times. 3 different times. He's set the record, I should say, multiple times. So it's he didn't simulcast this one. It wasn't on Showtime and on HBO. It's just on Showtime pay-per-view, which was interesting. Did more. Oh, excuse me. Did more without it. So, but it was interesting. If you followed my scorecard, I had Conor winning the first 4 rounds, and Floyd won 5, all the way up to the 10th, where he got the knockout, the technical knockout. And it wasn't something to where McGregor had taken on so much damage. It's just he didn't have the wind. He didn't have the endurance to finish the fight, which I figured would be the case. But he didn't fall down, and I thought that him going the distance, that he could stay standing for 12 rounds, and Floyd would allow him to stay standing for 12 rounds, because the unlikely bet there would be it going the distance. So that would make Floyd more money, because in the sport of boxing, as a boxer, you can bet on yourself to win. It's just seen as confidence. Unlike in baseball, you can't bet on yourself at all, or against yourself, which is obviously self-defeating and probably cheating. But he bet on himself to win before the distance. So before the end of the 12th round. So that's why he pushed for the knockout, because he was limited though. He wanted to bet $200 million, but they limited him to $700 or is it $76,000 or something like that. They was it 200? Oh yeah, 200,000? Maybe I don't know. Maybe he wanted to bet $200 million on himself to win. I don't know. Maybe he did. It seems like a safe bet. I mean, pretty much everything. Once the 5th round kicked in, and I noted, 4th round, Conor won. 5th round, he comes out. Conor was starting to look tired after 5 rounds. So, with 3 rounds of boxing, okay, MMA is 3 5-minute rounds, driving 15 minutes. I've seen some 5-round fights. So even at the most, you're looking at 25 minutes. So after, most of them don't even go 3 rounds. But after 6 rounds, I mean, that's 18 minutes of fighting. So, if it's normally 15, now to get to the 10th, you're in 30 minutes. You're going on 30 minutes. That's nearly twice what the normal time for an MMA fight is. If they're 3 5-minute rounds, and you still have 2 more to go, if you make it to the end of the 10th, you've been at 30 minutes. That's roughly 2 fights. Plus, you still have another round plus to go, MMA terms wise. 2 rounds, boxing, 3 minutes each, but 5 minutes. So you got 6 minutes left after that. So where MMA, and again, this is the big difference between the two. It's like distance running and sprinting. Boxing is distance running. You have some guys in the sport that are sprinters, but you have to be able to have your conditioning to where you can last 12 rounds. You can't get tired before 12 rounds. If you get tired before 12 rounds, you leave yourself open and you're probably going to lose. It's going to be tough. See, that's what was famous for the Thrilla in Manila. Ali didn't think that he would beat Foreman by moving around, because he couldn't move around the same way he used to. And he had power, but he knew Foreman's power could knock him out. So how was he going to be able to beat Foreman? Well, he had to get him tired. If you're running around the ring, you could lose points. People aren't thrilled with that. So what do? He did the rope-a-dope. He took shots on the arms and the gloves. So this way, in the later rounds, he was able to conserve his energy and use his speed to his advantage and start working more on him, because he's tired. He's used his core. When you punch, you're using your core. When you get hit, you're using your core. So he's using his core a lot. He's using his arms a lot. He's tired, because he's been doing all the work. So Ali was able to have that energy conserved for later rounds, and it worked. Conor, it's kind of the same thing. Floyd knew, I can come out here, I can take punches, get the crowd excited for a few rounds, and then take over. And it's not just Conor he did that with. I mean, we saw Zab Judah win the first 5 rounds. Decisively win the first 5 rounds. Mayweather flipped the switch, and what Zab was doing that was working wasn't working. So it was unexpected. It should have been expected for boxing fans, for sports fans. But this is why it's important to get the sports together. This is why it's important for guys like Deontay Wilder to be involved in this event. To get these, 30 million viewers, 40-some million people watching you. If you are on that fight, everybody's in there. Because if Wilder's on that, he's on just before Mayweather. Doesn't matter who he fights, but he's on just before Mayweather. And if he fights somebody that's respected, even if he's not, a top guy, White, I don't think, was a bad choice. White has fought in some respectable people. He's not Anthony Joshua, but we look at those like opponents. They had a pretty There's pretty bad blood between them, I guess. White beat Joshua in the amateurs. And he felt like, in juniors, and he felt like he could beat him now. Which obviously wasn't the case. I think it's pretty relative at this point. If you don't market yourself early, and this is any young entrepreneurs out there, any young people that are looking to be a brand or an influencer or something like that, just know there's a lot of free or cheap or readily accessible you have to do before you get paid, before you can be out there and getting big checks. It takes time. I've seen business owners that, within their first year, they see a relative amount of success, young people too, and then they struggle because now they've grown to where they need to hire salespeople. I'm telling you, the hardest thing to find is good salespeople and good customer service people. Those are the two hardest things to find. They seem like they're jobs that you don't want to pay much money to, don't want to give much guarantee at all to, but you need them. But that's why you gotta find people. You gotta have systems in place to be able to train people to get what you want out of them. And if you don't, I see so many businesses that are just fed up with salespeople. They want to outsource it. Oh, I can't find somebody. They're there for 2 days. If you have somebody come into your job and you hire them and they're there for a day or two and they quit, whose fault is that? You hired them and you couldn't even keep them for 2 days? But 2 days? But a week? And on the other side too, you bring somebody in, and if you hire somebody and fire them after 1 week, that is ridiculous. That is ridiculous. To think that in a short span of time you can only maintain a high valued position for such a small period of time. But being able to communicate on what you need, because young people, it doesn't matter what you do. It doesn't matter if you're in business, doing social media or whatever, or if you're an athlete, a young athlete, the great thing about life is, at some point in time, you will be humbled. You will most definitely be humbled. And success, like I said, is non-linear. Is sustained over time. It's sustainability. And there will be bumps and bruises along the way. So hopefully people learn from them and move on. But also just understand that we also have to understand that we're in a society, we understand how much praise is valued for people, but we have to understand that sometimes with overpraising, it does water down the praise and can inflate the ego of those receiving the praise, even if it's deserving or not. We have to find out a way as a society to work through that. So I want to get back into college football here, but we have David in Atlanta. How are you doing tonight, David?
What's going on, man?
You ready to come back down to Florida? We got hurricane coming.
Yeah, I mean, I've been through it already. That's scaring you. It don't scare me.
Oh no, I'm not scared. I'm in the middle. There's not water here.
I mean, that's not gonna that won't save you, but I guess that's a good concept.
Yeah, there's a lot of land between here and there, so it's not going to be much.
Well, that's what you betting on.
Yeah,
You
just
still
saying.
live in the same place you lived last time?
What? No. Yeah. No, not in Tampa. I'm north. I'm just north of Orlando.
Okay, so you moved farther north.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So you good then?
Yeah.
I thought you lived in the same place in Tampa. I was like, no, that shit ain't gonna save you.
No. I do have property in Tampa.
Okay.
But it's like 27 feet
Okay.
above sea level. So, and I have flood insurance too. So, I'm not in a flood zone, but I have flood insurance. I am a block and a half away from the river, but I'm 27 feet above sea level. So, you have to have some pretty hellacious rain and surges to get 27 feet above sea level.
No, it's not gonna do that. But the wind, because and I'm not sure if you've experienced before. One of the biggest issues you have with Florida hurricane, and because people, I don't know about your particular house,
Yeah.
is the
Straight line winds.
wind gets inside the house through like a window, and it eventually rips your roof off. So that's the big problem with this happening in Florida. Florida being so flat, the wind just flies across the state. So I don't think I think South Florida would deal with a lot of flooding, but I think like if it walks up to like Orlando, places like that, I think it's gonna be just a lot of wind damage.
Yeah. See, that's when my wife was worried about, we're going to get a flood. Is our flood insurance paid for? Like, we're 27 feet above sea level. We're good on the flood thing.
Yeah, now you got to worry about it there.
What I'm worried about,
you're good on flood.
What I'm worried about is it ripping off the roof or a tree falling on the roof. That's what I'm worried about.
Exactly. Yeah,
I'm not worried about
the same
flooding.
thing, if a tree gets loose and goes through your window, which is why people, like where I'm from in Orlando, we board up the windows.
Yeah.
Because like a tree branch gets loose and goes through your window, the wind will eventually make that hole get bigger and bigger, and then that'll rip your roof off.
That's good.
So, like Orlando don't have major flood issues, but the wind, when they had a Hurricane Charlie, the wind was a major issue. It destroyed a lot of property, just the wind.
So I got a call from a company who wanted to do the hurricane shutters on the windows.
I mean, just board it up. Just board it up. I mean, there was a guy in my old neighborhood that had a house. Essentially, the hurricane shutters was like built into his house design.
Yeah.
So like when the hurricane came through, he could kind of like turn his house almost into like a fort.
Yeah.
But it still looked like part of the design of the house, so it still looked nice. So you can always consider that. Because if you live in Florida long enough, you're going to have to deal with at least one hurricane.
Yeah.
This is how it goes. You know what I'm saying? So, this is how it is. You're going to deal with at least one.
Yeah, we remember, when I was in Puerto Rico, we had that Danny that was a category 1. I slept through it.
Yeah.
I just slept through it. It was...
That's not that bad.
Yeah.
That's like a little bit bigger than a tropical storm.
Yeah, I just slept through it. It was windy.
Yeah.
There was some palm fronds downstairs. Some parts of the city, some parts of the island lost power, obviously, but it's always going to happen.
Yeah.
The awning got broken. I didn't roll it up. I'm not really versed on, awning maintenance. So I figured it was attached to the side of the damn building. It wasn't going to go anywhere, and if somebody needed it to go somewhere, they would tell me. So I figured it was hurricane ready.
Yeah.
So I didn't touch it, and it broke. But anyways, that's on that.
And then the other thing is hail damage. because a lot of times you get hail that'll come before the storm.
Yeah.
And so then people that have to park their cars outside, and so you get a lot of hail damage, which also can be an issue. So it's all those things rolled up in one. But like you say, since you north of Orlando, you are more of a higher ground and you're not close to the water, so you're good as long as the storm doesn't come there and just sit on top of y'all. Okay.
Yeah. Any that's the thing is like with storms, anywhere you are, once the ground gets saturated, you're susceptible to flooding. Okay, again, the ground can only absorb so much water until it starts sitting on top of the ground. It takes time to get through the soil, you know. So it even here in Florida, it's like 30 days. Like if you put down a fertilizer, there's no fertilizer or anything that they put on the lawn in Florida that lasts more than 30 days. And if it rains, and that's with you raining, that's watering, 1 inch per zone twice a week. So roughly between an hour to 2 hours of watering per week of just solid watering. And that's an inch each time. So that's 2 inches of water per week on top of whatever would normally rain. So it only lasts 30 days. So if you're getting a downpour, like that was the trouble with Houston. The water just sat there, and it rained and rained and rained. When you get 40 to 52 inches of rain, there's not a lot you can do. Plus, you have the water being pushed inward from the coast.
So that's how it goes. I mean, because that's what Andrew did. I mean, you weren't living in Florida then.
No.
But Andrew just sat over Miami. Yeah, it just saying that just sat over Miami, and so that's why it did so much damage, because it just sat there. You know what I'm saying? So if that thing just sits on top of you, you could be 100 feet above seawater. You're gonna get flooded.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the thing. Is hopefully it moves through the area at a rapid pace. But if it just sits like Harvey just sat over Houston for like 3 days, it's nothing you can do about that.
Yeah, I hope. I don't know. See, when I was looking at it, my wife was like, "Where's it going to go?" And I was like, "I don't know." The way I look at it, it kind of looks like a stronger version of what Matthew was last year. It seems like it's the same path, but nobody knows. I told her, I was like, "You want to hear the messed up part? It could just plow through Puerto Rico, Dominican Republic, Cuba, South Florida, get back into the Gulf, get back up to a Category 5, and then hit Houston again. That's how messed up it is.
Exactly.
It could just go right there again."
And it definitely can do that, too. That's the thing about it. It definitely could do that.
So that's the crazy thing is about hurricanes. Tornadoes, I mean, they can do a lot of destruction in seconds. And again, when you have a tornado that's a mile wide, blowing over stuff, and it's on the ground for a minute or less, and just can level a town or a city, that's huge. And you have no warning, almost no warning for that. Hurricanes, on the other hand, like right now, I mean, people have known Irma was sitting out there before Harvey had hit land. It was already there.
Yeah.
So, and we're talking 3 weeks ago. It's bubbling and brewing, and now it's moving. That's the thing is, if it hits land, it typically slows down. So if it hits land Friday, I was telling people, I was like, if it hits land Friday, we might not even see it till Tuesday or Wednesday. You never know. Because it hits land, it changes. And then we got the Gulf Stream, and then we got fronts that come down from the north. So that's why everything can change, That's why you see it loop. If the Gulf Stream's coming in really strong, it could loop back around and hit Florida on the west side, the west coast, or the Panhandle, or go up and hit New Orleans like Katrina did.
Yeah.
But if Gulfstream isn't pushing it,
Well, let me tell you something. If it hits South Florida, even though you're north of Orlando, you'll feel it in your weather.
oh yeah,
And if you're sensitive to changes in barometric, what you call it, I think it's barometric or barometric pressure. If
Yeah.
you're sensitive to those kinds of changes, you'll also feel it because it'll come in with such a big system of like weather, it'll change everything around it.
yeah,
Like you'll literally it won't feel the rain. It's just the whole environment will feel different.
yeah. Animals are
that
like,
storm will only be maybe two. Yeah, they'll act differently, but you'll feel it when you go outside. The weather will feel different because that storm is maybe only like 3 or 4 hours south of you,
yeah.
and it's a massive storm. Yeah,
You know, they were saying that this storm is so strong that it's being recorded. They're able to record it through the devices that they record earthquakes with.
yeah, it's massive. That's a big storm.
Yeah. They said they clocked winds
Man, like I said,
over 190 miles an hour. I mean, when
and
you
the thing
have,
about it is that if it sweeps into the Gulf, it's gonna get even bigger.
yeah, that's what it's saying. You know, if they're saying it gets to, because they're saying basically right after Puerto Rico that it dies down. It turns to a Category 4. And again, Puerto Rico is not a very big island. You can go from coast to coast in
Exactly.
4 or 5 hours. It's not big. It's not a big island. You can go from coast to coast. You can go from Fajardo to Crash Boat, same day, spend the day there, and then drive back at night. Like, you know, it's like going. It's like what Stevie does. What he's done before for Miami games. Like if you left Orlando, went down to the Miami game, spent some time there, and then just drove back that night. That's what it's like.
Yeah.
It's not far, you know. It's not big, so that's just it. It's a small island. If that's kind of slowing it down, then it's Dominican Republic and Haiti. Again, we've seen Haiti rocked by waves, by hurricanes, stuff in the past. I'm willing to bet that we're going to hear a lot more of that because infrastructurally, Haiti still has not been built back up. Just hasn't. So probably going to hear more about that. But here's the thing. Here's the thing that I'm hoping. You know, I understand that the president of the U.S. has given full support to Rick Scott, the governor of Florida, so Mar-a-Lago doesn't go underwater or something. I don't know why. But he decided to give full support to Florida. So that's good. I appreciate that. But what I'm trying to look for out of citizens, if we're going to rally around our fellow citizens for support, I want to see people offering the same amount of support for what Puerto Rico is about to go through and helping Puerto Rico in the wake of this hurricane that we're about to get as they did with Houston, because it's it's going to probably be a lot more widespread damage, because anything that gets hit at something going 190 plus miles an hour is probably going to fall over, if not right away, but over time. And that's, like you said, it's not just getting hit with the wind. It's the constant being pounded by the wind. Trees fall over, hit a window, air gets in, roof comes off. You know, once the roof comes off, I mean, it's basically a billboard at that point. You have several billboards standing up, and it'll push the rest of the house over too. So if it's brick or not, I mean, constant pounding at 190 miles an hour. of anything, it's probably it could very well fall over. So that's a big concern there because obviously things aren't built hurricane tested usually there, and most homes, basically nowhere but the tourist areas and business, like major businesses, have air conditioning. So to keep cool, people keep windows open. Some homes don't have windows, like, to close. It's just bars.
Yeah.
It's not an actual, there's no window put in. And there's houses right on the coast. And the surge can bring they'll just bring the water, they'll bring tidal waves, surges just right in. So, I mean, with a Category 5 hitting like that, they're probably going to have widespread flooding throughout San Juan, Arecibo, all along the coastlines, and then other major damages from wind as well. So it's kind of a waiting game from this point on. So did you watch college football? I know you guys. I know you're not watching the NFL this year. Are you watching? Did you watch college football this weekend?
Yeah, I watched some of the Gators, Michigan, and then I watched a little bit of Florida State, Alabama.
What did you? What was your thoughts from Michigan? My takeaway from Michigan, Florida, was Florida's still not there yet, and Michigan is probably further along than people give them credit for. That's kind of my takeaway from it.
I mean, I knew Florida was going to lose that game. I told people that because they don't have an offense. But I don't think Michigan is really a good team. I just think Florida's that bad of a team. I think Florida's lack of ability to generate points hurt them, especially in the second half. Michigan has they got a good defense. Their offense really is not that good, and it probably won't stand up over the course of time in the Big Ten because people will figure it out real fast. But
yeah,
Florida is. They just don't. They don't have a quarterback. They have not had a quarterback in a very long time. So essentially puts their defense in a position where they got to try to win the game, and that's difficult to do in college. It's easier to do in the pros because guys are professionals and they're a lot more savvy. It's hard to tell a college defense that they have to week in and week out try to win games for a team. This is difficult to pull off.
Yeah. And I was just getting an email here from the NFL. Yeah, so the NFL has not come to a conclusion on the Buccaneers. I don't know why they sent out an email saying we haven't come to a conclusion. They still haven't come to a conclusion on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and Miami Dolphins game. It was supposed to be the opening game of the season this coming Sunday.
I thought that was canceled.
No, it wasn't.
I thought it was canceled.
It's not canceled. They said that they will either play it at a neutral site or later in the season. So what they might do is play it on a bye week.
Yeah, I heard it. Yeah. But I know they're not going to play it this Sunday.
Yeah, it's not. It will not be played. Tampa will not be playing this weekend, and neither will the Miami Dolphins.
Yeah. Those fields ain't going to be in no shape anyway, especially the field in Miami.
They just did all these renovations to get the Super Bowl down there. And now they're going to... then they get hit with a hurricane? Man, I wonder if the
they gotta
zoo is
hold
ready.
up, you know. They move those animals normally.
They do.
Yeah, they normally move them out of there. I mean, they move the ones they can move. They can secure some of them, but they normally move them.
So, I mean, isn't that what I thought they said? That's what part of the problem with Andrew was. They didn't have the animals moved, and they got out.
Yeah. I don't think they thought Andrew was going to be as bad as it is. But, you know, people have gotten a lot more hurricane technology as far as forecasting has gotten a lot more sophisticated than Andrew. Because you're talking about like the early 90s. So I just think they're able to understand the impact of how these storms can hit you a lot sooner, and they're able to move a lot faster. You know, because if like I said, I think it's going to hit. Like I said, if it hits, I think it's going to hit Miami, and it'll do the same thing Andrew did. Yeah.
You think it's just going to park right there and pour water?
I hope not. But if it does, it'll do the same thing Andrew did. I hope not, because that'd be disastrous for Miami, because Miami already has flooding problems without a storm. Just day to day, they have day-to-day flooding issues. But if it does, it'll do the same thing Andrew did. But that's a byproduct of wanting to live that close to the water. I mean, it's just how it goes.
Yeah, that's why I said if I ever own property near water, it's going to be on like the 5th floor or 6th, 8th floor. It's not going to be at the bottom. You know, it's not going to be a house on the beach. It'll be a condo several stories up on the beach. Like, it's like, I don't mind. I can pay to fix windows, but I don't want to have to replace a whole house because the ocean ate it. If you live close enough to the water that the water becomes a liability, you probably shouldn't live next to the water. I don't know. That's generally...
People like that stuff, man.
Yeah. People like to do drugs, too.
People like that.
And that kills you.
Yeah, I'm just saying people like that stuff. Because, I know you've seen them houses in Clearwater that are like literally half a block away from the water.
Literally. Okay, so I was... I didn't expect to talk about this, but since we're kind of on the Miami topic, and I'll hold it up for the camera too. I was going through some of my old Sports Illustrateds. I was like, I keep my Sports Illustrateds. Maybe it's weird. I don't know. Kind of like comic books. I collect my Sports Illustrateds. But I have this issue from June 12th of 1995, and the cover of Sports Illustrated is Hurricane Green, and in white letters says, "Why the University of Miami should drop football." Do you remember in the mid-90s when there was a call for the President Foote, the University of Miami, to abandon the football program?
No, I don't remember that.
Well,
don't mean it didn't happen. I just don't remember.
There was essentially, it was like an open letter that was written. By the way, the Shaq was in Orlando at that time. I'm sure Orlando was starting to pop, right?
Yeah, definitely.
But essentially is an open letter saying that they should get rid of football to save the academic reputation of the university because of the football program and the shenanigans that they have been involved with. You saw the 30 for 30s. And you're a fan of the Hurricanes. You saw the 30 for 30s.
Okay.
Obviously, the first of the two, both of them really weren't anything. They weren't anything really glorious or something to be happy about. When it came to the university, and because of those things, they were calling for Edward T. Foote II, the president of University of Miami, to forego fielding a football team. And they gave reference to the University of Chicago, which did it back in 1939. They were a part of the Big Ten Conference at that point in time. They gave up their football program, and the college has flourished academically. Miami has kind of been an enigma in that case because they're a small private college. You know, they can do things a little bit different. Not everything is on the same level of transparency. So, with Miami where they are now, just to look back and see 20 years ago, people were calling to close the university down, the football program down. What did you think? What did you think this weekend? Just kind of taking a look at the Hurricanes. What do you expect from them?
It's still hard to say. I thought my personal opinion was that I felt like they struggled with BCC, but it's the first game of the year. But I still felt like they struggled. So we'll know in 2 weeks where they at. So it's real. We're gonna find out real fast.
Now, with Florida State losing their quarterback for the year, do you think that changes things?
No, I mean, it should make it easier for them to beat them.
Hey, by the way,
you know what I'm saying? Like, if you can't beat them without their starting quarterback, you're not going to beat them.
Hey, don't think that Arkansas State is an automatic win, by the way.
Okay, cool. That's cool. But at the same time, that, you know, like I said before, is that we'll know in 2 weeks where they're really at. You know, I don't anticipate them losing to Arkansas State. So to me, the real test is Florida State without their starting quarterback, because we know he's not coming back for the year.
Yeah.
So if you can't beat that team without their starter, then you just, you know, you got a long way to go. You know, you got a long way to go.
I'm gonna watch the Arkansas State game because I was telling people coming in that, you know, there's something to watch, and it's going to be a close game. If you want to find out how to sober up a city where that day's population is somewhere around 300,000 and have been drinking since 10 a.m., if you want to sober them up, take their season opener, home opener game against a team like Arkansas State down to the last possession of the game. You want to sober them up, that will sober the shit out of somebody. Normally you win a close game, you're excited, you're upbeat. It was dead. The atmosphere was dead. You know, it was almost like they lost. But it was Arkansas State's a team to keep an eye on. If they beat Miami and can tear into their conference because their next. I mean, they really don't have any tough opponents. If their only losses to Nebraska, I mean, we'll see them partway down the year, like from against Southern Georgia. After that, they'll probably be ranked. They only have one loss, but it was an eye opener. With FSU, what do you make of their quarterback situation moving forward? Because it seemed pretty unsettled for a school that's been able to bring in some decent quarterbacks to be able to struggle like that with the backup.
Yeah.
It seems kind of unsettling. Do you think it's a huge drop off for them moving forwards?
Yeah, I think it will be. I don't know the impact it's going to have on them in the conference because I haven't seen like the other teams play, so I understand how competitive the conference will be. But I definitely think without Francois, however you pronounce that guy's name, I think they're out of the national championship or even what we call the playoff. I think they're out of the playoff picture without him.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So they're just now playing for respect and to try to salvage their season and not try to tank their season. But I definitely don't think they were in the playoff picture without him at quarterback because whoever they're going to put in there is going to be a big drop-off because, Francois was experienced. This is his second year coming back.
Yeah. And
but to be truthful, I expected him to get hurt. Because he took so many hits last year. I told people that he's not going to make it at Florida State. And so what I thought was going to happen happened to him. He just got hurt.
See, that's the thing is a lot of these young guys don't understand, and it's a young thing. People learn as they go along. You see the good NFL quarterbacks, the ones that are at the very top, may be less gifted in a lot of respects, but are able to do their jobs at a very high level and not take a lot of punishment. I mean, any athletes, like Floyd Mayweather, he's able to do it at a high level, not take a lot of punishment. Aaron Rodgers, that's the thing is, like, the team had suffered because he'd been taking a lot of hits. So, but Tom Brady, 40, still playing at a high level, when you could protect your quarterback and you don't take a lot of hits, it's better for you. But young guys don't understand it. Same thing with like in business. They like I was saying earlier, those salespeople, like, people will struggle to find quality salespeople because most people don't want to do sales, and they struggle with getting somebody to stay or keeping them, because like most people start a business, they know their product, they know their service, they get their hustle, and they can hustle, they can sell or get people to buy their product or service, but they don't know how to teach somebody to do what they're doing. And that's a problem.
Yeah. They don't have a system.
They don't have a system.
Yeah, they don't have a system.
Exactly. So without the system...
we're speaking the same language. I see this all the time.
So that's why in the NFL, the system that works and that's prolonged for people to work is for the quarterback to be in the pocket. Because the pocket is where he's less likely to get hit. Because he has 5 guys, 6 guys around him protecting him right there. When you get outside the pocket, there's no one. And that's what young guys don't understand. They think because they move and they're mobile and it gives them versatility, they're not understanding the liability behind it. Because most people don't think about getting hurt when they're playing a violent sport. Otherwise, they wouldn't probably play it. So, that, again, if you're a young athlete, particularly a quarterback, you need to learn to stay in the pocket. Be athletic, but learn to do and control within the pocket. You'll have a longer life. You'll have less concussions. And you'll be more apt at the higher level. I watched a few games here and there. It was kind of tough getting some of the games this weekend. They weren't very forthright. When I was watching the Nebraska Arkansas State game, I was like, hey, you got like 5-6 TVs in a row. Can you put like the little one in the corner on Alabama FSU? It's kind of, number 1 versus number 3. It is the highlight game of the week. And they just looked at me crazy. But in the third quarter, Nebraska was making a drive, caught the ball, and then it got switched over. So somebody changed it to check the score and meant to change one television and changed every television. And people were pissed. But I watched it for a couple minutes. I'm gonna go back over
Alabama. The game's on YouTube now, though.
Yeah, I'll go back over and watch
that's
it
how shit
again.
works now. Yeah. Alabama looks. They look like a playoff team, but I heard they lost 2 of their starting linebackers in that game.
Yeah, I did see that. I know one of them's out for a significant period of time, but the other one will probably be back. So
we'll see how that affects them. But offensively, they look very solid because it's very basic. They're just gonna run the football on you, and then when you bring the safety up, they're gonna hit really deep in a one-on-one coverage. Like it's just it's real basic. Boring the fact that it's so basic because you would figure somebody could scheme a way to stop it, but the problem is college football doesn't have the talent to stop what they do. Because it's very basic. Like there's no way you can pull that shit off in the NFL because it's too basic.
Yes.
But in college it works.
Yes.
But in the NFL they will kill that shit.
Yes. There is not a large degree of complexity to what they do. It's a lot of basic. Trapping and zone blocking.
I'm just talking about their scheme. Like their offensive and defensive schemes are very vanilla. They're extremely vanilla. The issue is that college football doesn't possess the talent to beat that scheme. Where if you try to run that same scheme in the pros, that's that vanilla. Like if you try to run a vanilla scheme like that against Drew Brees, he's going to destroy you.
Yeah.
Because it's too easy for him. But against a guy like Francois, who's maybe 19 years old, that's still complex to him because the pressure is still complex to him. So he doesn't have time to see what's going on downfield. Drew Brees will immediately understand where the pressure's coming from and destroy you.
You see, that's what I've been saying for years about why people on the defensive backside have struggled at the pro level for Alabama. Because
they're not asked to do nothing.
Yeah, they're not.
But that's all SEC corners, except maybe LSU. I tell everybody, anytime you play SEC team, throw deep on their ass all game.
Yeah.
And test their corners. Because they're not really used to any kind of real coverage.
60
because they
seconds.
Live on their pressure, which means the corners don't have to really cover anybody. So make them cover.
We got about.
You see, they struggle. They give up big plays a lot.
Yeah, that's what it is. It's a crazy thing that more schools don't try to bring in quarterbacks. We have about 15 seconds if you guys want to call in 347-237-5539. That's a big thing. I was like, I don't get why it is that they haven't been able to recruit quarterbacks because they get wide receivers. They get the skills guys. The skill guys pretty much all come from the South. So it's not a problem finding skills guys. They just don't have quarterbacks there. Why aren't they coming, going to California and Texas?
10 seconds.
Where you get a lot of the quarterbacks. Why aren't you trying to bring them there? I just don't. The biggest problem in college sports is there is a lack of coaching and staffing that can develop players. And that's just where it comes down to. I mean, a lot of guys want to be a coach, but people don't know how to develop talent, you know? Developing talent takes time.
Yeah, but
when your junior staff, when your assistants are just worried about getting up to their next job, you know, getting their next promotion, working their way up the chain, they're not worried about the kid in front of them and how they're developing.
I mean, that's what it's all about, man. But you just said it. The issue is that it's so difficult to develop a quarterback. I think teams have figured out, like Urban Meyer in Ohio State, how can I win without developing a quarterback?
Exactly.
Because it's really difficult to develop. You know what I'm saying? So I think they just said our system is going to be how can we win without having to develop that. Well, on the next level, the NFL level, you won't win without developing your quarterback. It just won't happen.
Yeah.
But on the college level, you know, because you're an old-school Nebraska fan, you know, Nebraska has had some very successful teams without guys that was considered pro-level quarterbacks.
Yeah. Our
everything
best
else around them was excellent.
Our best quarterbacks in history, the two that qualified for Heisman, that were in either one or in runner-up position for Heisman, or the one that won national titles, either became receivers, defensive backs, or would have been like an athlete. Tommy Frazier would have went into the league as an athlete, not as a quarterback.
Halfback.
Yeah. So, and that's the thing is they don't even go in as that position. You know, this is what I was telling. I was talking briefly with Terrence Gibson when he was in high school down in Miami. And I just told him, I was like, wherever you go, just understand what the temperature of the room is as far as the quarterback situation. If you're not going to see the field as a quarterback within your first 2 seasons, for sure, you need to change positions if you want to go into the league.
Yeah.
The given.
Yeah, definitely.
And then he's like, yeah, I'm going to Ohio State. I said, if you're going to Ohio State, work on your hands. Because once you get in the league, you're probably going to be a wide receiver. Again, this is all before Terrell Pryor did that. He was still trying to be a quarterback. He's a pretty good wide receiver. So that's the thing is, when you're a quarterback in college, you really need to understand that you have to have another offensive trait or defensive position that you practice and that you can work on. Because if most guys aren't going to go into the league as quarterbacks. And if you go into the league as a quarterback, you're going to fizzle out pretty quick. Because when they put you to the fire, I mean, there's guys that have been pretty decent quarterbacks in college that just haven't been able to work in the pros. Again, because there's a system. If you cannot throw from the pocket and you cannot work within the pro-style system, it's just not going to work for you. You know, Cam is so big.
He's not going to make it.
So big and so strong. I mean, the guy is like a defensive end. So he can take more punishment than the average guy can because he's bigger. He's thicker. He's stronger. He has more cushion. So he can. He shouldn't, but he can. I mean, he had this off-season surgery on his arm. Is he starting this weekend? You know?
I think so. That's why they held him out all camp.
Yeah, so
he got to start. But let me explain. But let's talk about Cam. I don't think Cam has a good year this year.
I don't think so either.
I think Cam had 1 year, and I think everybody figured Cam out. And he had a bad year last year. He's going to have a bad year this year. That's my prediction. It is not like I want to see him have a bad year. I just think everybody's figured the guy out because he's not a real quarterback.
Yeah. I think he has a good season. And again, that was his most conservative season. Least runs, least scrambles, most yards, most touch. I mean, he threw 35 touchdowns, only 10 interceptions.
Yeah. Yeah, he just had a great year. But, you know, what I know, because, you know, we all know that a person can have a standout year, but over the course of their season, over the course of their career, they're going to always go back to who they are.
Yeah.
You know, just like a guard in basketball. You can have 1 year where you average 30 points a game, but if you're really a 22-point-a-game guy, you'll eventually go back down to 22 points. Because that's just what you are.
Yep.
So, you know, Cam had a great year. But we'll see this year if he has a rebound to the Super Bowl year. But I don't think he has it, even with those weapons around here, because Cam can't throw.
Yeah, he's not
So,
accurate
you know,
at all.
nothing's going to get around that.
Thing is,
Yeah, he can't throw. It's not that he's not accurate. He can't throw.
see
You know
what
I'm saying? He can't throw.
they're doing a good job of getting athletes around him. So, you know, they're tall athletes that people can go get the ball.
Exactly. That's what you got to put around him, too.
See, that thing is like, that's why when they had Ted Ginn, why Ted Ginn had probably his breakout years, because the whole idea was to find Ted Ginn in space and just let Ted Ginn be fast and be elusive.
Yeah.
That's what he is. See, that was the problem. Miami never used him like that. They wanted him to be the number 2 wideout or number 1 wideout. But
Yeah, he can't do that. He don't have the route. He doesn't run the routes crisp enough to be that guy.
yeah, exactly. So you got to give him flexibility. So he has to be able to ad-lib. He needs to be more backyard football than, you know, gridiron football. So
Yeah,
they allowed for that, and it worked. So if he sat out all preseason, you're gonna wonder where's the throwing at to begin with. Wait.
Yeah, but
What sort of?
what I'm saying is that that's all they could do. You know what I'm saying? Because you want to make sure you bring them back healthy.
Why?
You know, but it's just I don't see it happening for them this year. Even with McCaffrey, who I think is going to be a really good player, but Cam, like, to me, you got to really simplify that offense and make it to where Cam throws the least amount as possible.
I mean, they have Christian McCaffrey. I mean, they have some decent running options. So, I mean, what they got to look at now is how can they do with him kind of what they did with Mariota in his first year. That's what they need to do. Basically run that kind
Barrett's got a better arm than Cam, though.
Yeah, but
He got a better arm than Cam.
But most of the throws are under 15 yards. Or within 15 yards.
But see, this is the issue with Cam. It's not about the distance of the throw. He's not an accurate passer because he can't throw. So the issue you have is that 3 of his throws will be good and the next 3 will be terrible. That's his big problem. He's the same thing as Tebow. They got the same issue. You know, if you can throw accurately 20 yards down the field, but every time it leaves your hand it's accurate, well, that's all Bernie Kosar did his whole career. He never threw like over 30 or 40 yards his whole career, but every time it left his hand, it was accurate. So you knew where the ball was going to go. It's like a pitcher that can only pitch 85, but it's always where you want it to be. Yeah. So it doesn't matter that he can't throw 95 because he can throw 85, but he can put it anywhere he wants. Cam's problem is that Cam can throw extremely hard. He can throw a deep ball, but you don't know where it's going. He has no control over it. So that's the thing. I mean, because this is the issue. He has one of the best tight ends in the league on his team, and Olsen is not as good as he should be because Cam's not that good.
Yeah, just imagine, like, I mean, you look at guys like, what's the guy's name from Miami that was in New Orleans? Ended up going to Jimmy Graham.
Jimmy Graham.
Yeah. Hey, look at Jimmy Graham, for example. I mean, he had a good career going in New Orleans, and then takes bigger money and has had an okay season in Seattle.
Yeah.
But that's it. I mean,
the quarterback, man.
I was watching that Sports Science on Drew Brees, and they had an archer shooting arrows at a target, and then they had Drew Brees throwing a football at a target. And Drew Brees was more accurate in 10 throws than an archer in 10 shots.
Yeah.
It was crazy.
Yeah.
Like, he literally hit the bullseye exactly in the center, like almost 10 times in a row. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. But, you know, it was Brees and Peyton that brought the back shoulder to the NFL. Nobody was doing that before them. And if you throw that ball in the wrong place, the corner runs under that shit and keeps going. You know what I'm saying? But they were the one that brought that into the NFL, and you can only throw that with really accurate quarterbacks.
Yeah, and again, once you got that, that's indefensible. Like, there's nothing you can do about it as a corner.
It is.
Because if you're going to defend it, it's gonna be pass interference every time.
Yeah.
So it's
you know, because they brought that, and then you saw guys in college start throwing that. But, you know, Brees and Peyton was doing that in the NFL like 08, 09.
Yeah.
They brought that thing into the NFL. Like, they essentially created that. So, you know, Drew Brees that's the difference, is that Drew Brees is a real quarterback. Not a great athlete, not real tall. But he's a real quarterback. Like, he's a real deal. Even
look at back in the day when you'd see guys that would stretch the field out. Like, even like, say Kurt Warner. Like, even with the greatest show on turf, those weren't back shoulder throws. That was throw it deep and let my speed catch up with the ball, you know? And it didn't matter if it was on the outside or over the middle. It wasn't back shoulder. It was over the top. And that's the thing is, even Joe Montana, he was over the top. You know? It wasn't, you didn't see guys, you never really ever see guys doing the back shoulder. I mean, some of them got there, but not on that sort of consistent basis that I can remember. So
no, nobody was doing that before Brees and Peyton, especially on the sideline. Where, you know, they would throw the back shoulder to the sideline, where, like you say, it's indefensible as long as you put the ball in the right place. If you put the ball in the wrong place, the corner runs up under it and it keeps running.
Yeah, and then they're gone.
You know what I'm saying? So that's
you cannot underthrow that.
That's a very dangerous pass.
Yeah.
You can't underthrow it. You know what I'm saying? So that's a dangerous pass if you don't have the ability. But, like, if you look at Brees and you look at a guy with a really strong arm like Jameis can throw some back shoulder, but he can't throw it all game like Brees can.
Yeah, he's
Brees
not as consistent. He's not consistent enough yet.
Yeah, he's not consistent. He's not consistent enough. And so that's the difference between, you know, just the quarterback. And so that's what I'm saying, is that there's not a lot of guys with that talent level in college. So you can just run a lot of vanilla stuff in college, and if your fundamentals are good, it'll work.
And, you know, have you watched the Chiefs at all? Have you watched Patrick Mahomes?
I have not seen him yet.
He's looked really good. I think that he would. Most of these teams that are like struggling for a starting quarterback, had he been on one of those teams, he'd probably start. He would probably be this season's Dak Prescott.
Okay.
Which many people think Kaiser will be in Cleveland. But it's Cleveland. So.
No, it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen in Cleveland. It's not going to happen in Cleveland.
It's I'm trying to find I had a paper here. Just gonna talk about something there, but anyways. I was off the air last week. What did you think of Mayweather-McGregor? Was it entertaining?
I wouldn't say it was entertaining. You know, I wouldn't say that. I mean, it was decent. It wasn't terrible. You know, it wasn't an embarrassment.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't say it was entertaining. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't like must-see TV or no shit like that.
Yeah. But, I mean, you didn't think it was a waste of time to watch, do you?
No, I mean, I didn't pay for it, so, I essentially got my time back.
Yeah.
If I would have paid to see it, I probably would feel different about it.
Now, I thought the card overall was kind of...
The card was very... I liked the card. You didn't like the card?
I thought it was... undesirable.
Okay, I like the card. In fact, I probably like the card better than I like the main event. I
like the card, watching the card better than the main event, but for what the event was, for 6.5 million pay-per-view buys, I want to see something else. I needed to see Sean Porter fighting Thurman again on that card too. I needed to see Deontay Wilder fight another average, mediocre opponent.
They're not on the promotion, though.
That's what I'm saying.
They're not on the promotion.
I know. That's their problem. That's the problem. Yeah. They needed to be on the promotion.
They're not on the promotion.
They needed to get on there. You know, Floyd works very close with Al Heyman. That's what Heyman guys.
Yeah.
I mean, that...
But they Mayweather guy. But Gervonta and the second to the last guy. But those are the two belt fights. Those are Mayweather's guys.
Yeah.
So he got them on that card. Yeah. So that's the thing, is that Deontay's not one of Mayweather's guys, though.
No, but he's supposed to be part of the future of boxing in the U.S. And he's a Heyman guy.
Yeah, but he's a Heyman guy, but he's not one of Mayweather's guys. That's the issue. Yeah, you're right. He's a Heyman guy, but he's not one of Mayweather's guys. And so I don't think Deontay wanted to be.
Deontay
wanted to be fourth from the main event. He didn't want to be fourth from the main event.
He wouldn't have been. He would have been
second. At 8 o'clock at night.
He would have been the second fight. Second to last fight.
Okay, I feel you.
And then, I think Gervonta Davis would have been the third to last fight. And then the fight just before that. Okay. Because the co-main was supposed to be Sean Porter. But he dropped he dropped out. But and that's the thing, is that would have pushed Gervonta Davis, that would have pushed him back to the fourth fight. So that's the thing, is like, and he didn't make weight. And I know he was really upset, and he took to Instagram talking about,
that's his fault.
People didn't listen, man, you're a team of one.
Fault. That's his fault.
You have a team that trains you, but you're a team, at the end of the day, you're a team of one. You are responsible for making weight and making weight alone. If you don't make weight, that's your problem.
That's on you.
Yeah,
that's on you. Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And I wasn't impressed in his fight. I know he can fight better than that, but I watched him to kind of get an understanding of what he was bringing to the table.
Yeah.
And the fight didn't impress me. I saw his skills, but the fight didn't impress me. It was a very sloppy fight.
Exactly. And I think it made him look diminished. I really did. Because his opponent was getting shots in on him, and he hurt him once. I know it hurt him once. I saw him stagger, and then he tried to joke about it. And that's just it. It's
I think he didn't take that fight seriously. I think that was a problem from the start.
Yeah.
If they matched him with a guy they knew he could beat, he knew he could beat the guy. And so his focus in camp wasn't serious to where I'm just going to run through this dude. That's the immaturity. But just, being young, we've been young like that before. We just don't take things seriously. And so I think that was the issue, where he really didn't take the whole situation seriously, and he didn't understand that Floyd did you a big favor by putting you essentially as a co-main event on a major fight. This is a time to showcase your skills and show people what you're coming with, and you don't make weight, and then you go in the ring and you look sloppy. It wasn't a good night for him.
Sure wasn't.
So he got to do better than that, because I wasn't impressed. That was a guy that he should have got out of there in 2 or 3 rounds. That should have been a 2 or 3 round fight. He should have just ran through that dude.
But obviously the boxing was better on the card than the main event. I agree there. Wholeheartedly.
Yeah, the boxing. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, definitely. It was because it was boxers.
Yeah.
The main event was one guy that was a boxer, and the other guy that was an MMA fighter.
Now, Cunningham, who took an L in that fight, the dude's like 40-some years old.
Yeah.
Like, I'm surprised. I looked at him. He didn't look 40-some. He looked 40-some because the last fight I remember Cunningham was on. He was on the undercard here in Tampa when Thurman fought Luis Collazo here in Tampa at the Sundome, and he fought Antonio Tarver, who they fought to a draw, which I was like, I thought Tarver won the fight, but it's kind of that thing. It's like another one of those guys. He seems like that veteran that's been around long enough to give you credibility in the fight as a young up-and-coming guy.
Yeah.
And he feels like, because he's been around for so long and he knows he's better skilled, that he's going to win the fight. That's why he's taking the fight, because he's proven to people that he can. So it's kind of, he was tricked into taking that fight. And it's weird though, because you see, the fighting it, at light heavyweight and seeing someone trying to fight with Floyd's style at light heavyweight, it's kind of odd. I don't know. It's it didn't. Maybe they were at cruiserweight. Yeah, it was a cruiserweight fight. It's just odd.
Okay.
I don't know. It didn't sit right. Because the cruiserweight level, at cruiserweight, you have guys that are really heavy hitters there. You can't be trying to duck and dodge all around. You got to be able to move and have defense, but you need to be able to have an active jab. If you don't have an active jab in the heavier weight divisions, you're going to get demolished. You're not going to go winning on points too much by trying to outbox people at cruiserweight, because there's too many people that can hit you too hard. They can knock you out through your glove.
Get you out of there.
Yeah. They'll just punch through the glove.
Get you out of there.
Yeah, it's a difference when you're fighting, at lightweight or welterweight. You don't have many guys that are going to punch through the glove, to knock someone out. But when you get up, middleweight, light heavyweight, and cruiserweight, you start to get guys that they can punch through the glove. You get knocked out being punched through the glove. So
what did you think of the fight, though? What did you think of the Mayweather-McGregor fight? You saw it?
Yeah, it was exactly what I thought it was going to be. The early rounds. That's why I said McGregor is going to win 1 to 3 rounds. Every judge had him winning 1, 2, or 3 rounds.
Yeah. So 2 of them had him winning 1, though.
No, 1 had him winning 1 had him winning 2, 1 had him winning 3.
Okay, I don't know about that, but I ain't gonna argue over that shit.
I had him winning the first 4 rounds and then losing everything after.
Yeah, I know
that.
you had him winning you had him damn near winning the fight.
Well, he was winning the fight on points after 5 rounds. But again, it's a 12-round fight.
No, he wasn't. I figured he wasn't though. But I kind of knew how you was gonna score the fight, so.
No,
I expected that.
Again, I didn't have any rooting interest. I didn't have any rooting interest in the fight. There's no rooting interest. I don't put money on. I'm just saying, based on activity, based
none
on.
of your scores surprised me.
Well, okay, so I scored that fight, and it looked a lot like the score I scored for Zab Judah. Zab Judah, I had him winning the first 5 rounds. and then Floyd won every round after that. But that's how Floyd fights. He will give up the first 3-4 rounds. He will, especially against a guy. Okay, here's the thing is, and also, Floyd fought different this fight than every other fight. He stood right in front of McGregor the whole fight and just took punches.
Exactly.
He wasn't trying to move around and get a
wasn't.
lot of angles. He was coming forward and standing in front of him the entire fight.
Yeah, but this is the issue, and this is the narrative that the McGregor camp is trying to push. I watched the fight from a different angle. It was more like an overhead angle. McGregor wasn't really hitting that dude with no solid shots.
No, he wasn't.
Just, like you know what I'm saying, it was like they was punches, but they weren't solid, and I think that's why his scoring wasn't what he thought it was going to be, because they weren't solid, shots that you need to hit somebody well on the pro boxing level. The score.
Well, his
saying?
mechanics
So
are
even
all
though he
off.
made a lot of contact, well, he can't fight. That's his problem. Like, you know what I'm saying? Of course his mechanics are off. He can't fight. He's not a boxer.
I mean,
So, he did what I expected him to do. But
again,
he didn't really.
I wasn't
points
scoring
were off because
style. I was scoring if you hit him more than he hits you, you win the round.
Yeah, but what do you define as a hit? You call it just contact?
Yes.
Like if his okay. See the
If his
judges
glove
didn't think it
hits
that way.
his glove hits his chest, abdomen, or head, it is a point.
Head, that's the point to you. That's the point. I feel you.
If it's
I
a
feel you.
jab, it's
Yeah,
a
so
jab.
the judge-
Everything else other than a jab is considered a power punch.
Yeah, I feel you. Yeah,
That's
so
how you
the thing
score
that
it.
The judges didn't see McGregor. Well, yeah, I understand. I mean, and you are right technically, but the people that was actually watching the fight on the floor, they felt like McGregor's contact really wasn't sufficient enough to give him points.
He wasn't. Yeah, I get
He
it.
was just, he was.
But it's not about.
He was love tapping Floyd, dude.
Exactly, he was. Because he wasn't trying to win the fight. It wasn't advantageous for him to win the fight. Beating Floyd...
Okay, so he threw the fight?
No, I don't think he threw the fight. But it wasn't advantageous for him to win the fight. Okay? I don't think if he was trying to win, he would have won anyways. But the thing is, they put on an event. The fight, I won't say it was fixed or scripted, but we kind of understood what the outcome was before. The thing is, with heavier gloves, we saw a lot of the punching bag work and stuff he did before. He's not really a skilled enough boxer to really be throwing and getting the right. His mechanics are off, so it's not going to hit him at the right velocity. But I don't think he was trying to put the same amount of velocity, because he did hit Floyd several times in the first 4 rounds with what looked like good shots. They weren't solid enough to really hurt him, but they were good shots. It was enough to move Floyd's head. It looked entertaining. It was an event. He's not going to win a boxing match against Floyd. Again, that's why a lot of what he did was getting around behind him and hammer punching, which they let go on. They let happen. And there's nothing illegal about him going and punching from behind as long as he's punching the side in front of the face, chest, or abdomen. If he's punching the back, that's kidney. The back is illegal. Can't hit the back of the head. Can't hit the crown of the head. You have to hit the face on the side or front, but you can't hit it on the top. The chest and the abdomen. So that's it. That's the area that you can hit. If you hit the arms with gloves, that doesn't count. It's about hitting and getting points. Now, when you're looking at the round on a closeness level, and what you're talking about is how are the punches hitting. And this is why, and this is kind of some of the similar things, like when high-level boxers have fought Floyd. I go back to like Maidana, a lot of people remember, and Canelo, a lot of people remember the fights. They were glancing blows. They weren't solid punches. So where they were hitting Floyd and getting points for it, it wasn't to the point to where it was doing damage. So if you have a pretty close round, that's why when you hear me say, I got this guy winning the round, he landed more meaningful punches. So somebody say if Floyd landed 2 really big punches that made McGregor stumble, versus Conor landing some more punches in the round, Floyd would win the round on my card because he landed more meaningful punches. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, but Floyd really wasn't throwing a ton of punches the first 4 rounds. He was tapping here and there, but he was letting himself get hit. That's exactly what I said he was going to do. He wants people to get into the fight. I said in the early rounds he's going to take punches. He's going to let him hit him. Now, Conor didn't hit him as hard as he could, or maybe should have. I don't know. But he hit him hard enough to make it viewable that he's hitting him and he's trying to hit him, you know. But again, it's not to the point. I get he's a professional fighter, but there's a difference because even a lot of guys like Wilder, even I'll take Wilder. He's one of the top heavyweights in the world. His jab is not pushing people back. The jab should be pushing their head back. You should be moving people back with your jab. The jab should be keeping people at distance. And if they keep coming in, if they find the way in on the jab or around the jab, that's where the straight right hand comes in. Especially on southpaws. That straight right hand keeps southpaws honest. You know, that's what Floyd was hitting him with. He moved out of the way of a couple punches and hit him with the straight right. So that's the thing. Floyd could have ended that fight really quick. But why would you end it quick? See, that's why I thought he was going to let it draw out to 12. Because I thought he was going to bet on the fight going the distance. Because that would have made him a lot more money because it was less likely to happen. I think most people thought it was going to end, like you said, you said 6 rounds?
I said 6. I said 6. I thought it was going to be over in 6.
Yeah, I think most people thought along your lines that they was going to stop by 6. And that's the thing is, like, by the 6th round, Conor was pretty gassed, you know? That's 18 minutes. That's more than his typical fights in the UFC, you know. And by the time he gets through if he got through the 10th round, that's like 2 fights in the UFC.
Yeah,
that's through the 10th. He only made it halfway through the 10th. So that's just it. It wasn't an issue that he was getting hit hard enough to where it was gonna knock him out. See, that's what I thought. Now, if they let Conor fall there and get back up, and he makes it through the round, you know, that would have got people excited. I don't know. It makes it more exciting. It doesn't change.
He would have got hurt though.
Huh?
He would have got hurt if he would have came back. You know, that's why I knew he was bullshit when he was talking about something. They should have let me go down. Unless he would have stayed on the ground and just got counted out. If he would have gotten back up and let Floyd keep hitting him, he'd probably be in the hospital right now. You know what I'm saying? Because Floyd was swinging to get his ass up out of there.
Maybe. I don't think he'd be in the hospital, but he would have won the fight by knockout, an actual knockout.
Yeah,
he would have actually knocked him out.
He'd be in the hospital. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. He'd be in the hospital. You know what I'm saying? Because Floyd was swinging to get his ass up. And the thing about an MMA fighter is they're not used to getting hit like boxers hit you. That's totally out of their league. That's not something they're used to.
That is true. See, that's a big thing, too. When that's what I said about Ronda Rousey when she fought Holly Holmes.
Holly Holmes, yeah.
Again, boxing is more it's more at home. The fists are in front. And when you see the skilled boxers punching and they're hitting you, it's tougher to tell what punch they're going to throw because everything's at home, The uppercut looks like it could be a straight. You don't know if it's going to be a straight right hand or an uppercut because they're in sync, like the pistons on an engine. They can motor like that. Whereas, you see guys throw punches, some heavy punches, but they're wide. They're wide punches. So a boxer is going to be able to move and get inside of that. But the difference is UFC, they use 2-3 ounce gloves. So it's basically like someone's fist hitting you. It's not a glove, really. There's no protection. And that's the tougher part. It's not about, again, I was saying, if you kind of compare it, MMA is kind of like a sprint versus boxing being more of a marathon, more of the long distance run,
Yes.
And that's just it. If you can't go the distance, you have to be able to have stamina in boxing. Otherwise, you're going to lose your fight. Not because you can't hit, because you can't punch, just because you're tired. You won't be able to do it. You won't be able to be effective because you're tired. The most important thing in boxing is the stamina. You don't have to be able to knock people out. That's not a requirement. Just like hitting in baseball. You don't have to hit home runs. To be a great hitter, you don't have to hit home runs. You just have to be able to hit for average or above. And how do you do that? You stay at home. You know where the pitches are. You understand where it is. And you take consistent swings. If you can swing consistently, you can hit it. And you can hit for average or above. That's just it. MMA, everything is so fast. Fast-paced. That's why people are drawn to it. It's like, it's like the hurry-up offense. It's constantly moving. That's why people didn't like when St. Pierre would fight, because he'd take a lot of things to the ground, and he would wrestle and do jiu-jitsu. And people didn't want to watch grappling. Two men hugging each other on the ground. People were turned off by that. Most people. Anyways, not everybody. Maybe people like that. But most people were turned off by it. So they get upset. It was boring because people weren't punching each other. But that's the thing is Conor McGregor really bring to UFC. He was just going out there and punching people. He's not a good fighter, in that sense. He's not really going in there and fighting in a way that he's doing a lot of wrestling or jiu-jitsu. His fights are pretty much his shitty style of boxing, and he has smaller gloves so he can knock people out. Or he wins by points. The thing is, Nate Diaz, the second fight, he beat him on points. If it was a lesser weight fighter, he would have knocked him out. That's what happens when you move up in weight. Guys can absorb more punches. So, yeah, he's not fit for boxing. And I just hope he doesn't go into boxing after this. It's not advantageous for him to do that. I know a lot of people are like, oh, maybe he'll look at boxing. No, it wasn't. It was not a good boxing match, and I highly recommend that he never try to be a boxer. or at least no time in the near future. Take a couple years and train in boxing and go maybe take some amateur fights. I don't know, some warm-up stuff, maybe against Paulie Malignaggi. I don't know. That's the thing, is he's not a skilled boxer. I don't look for him to be boxing anytime soon. But
I feel you. Well, man, I'm finna get up out of here, man. So be safe, man. So whatever happens,
Oh, yes.
be safe. Take care of yourself.
will do. I appreciate it.
All right, talk to you later.
Yep. This is David in Atlanta calling in. So, for those of you still listening in, either over on Spreaker, YouTube Live, or those of you that I see here that are on hold listening to the show. So, but the show is winding down now. We did start a little bit late, so I'm running a little bit long here. So, but I did want to get into I did want to get a little bit more into Ezekiel Elliott tonight. I won't be able to. But the week 1 of the NFL is going to be a bit different. I think that there's a lot of coaches here in the first week of the NFL that are kind of on alert, so to speak. So, because I'm almost certain we're going to see a coach that doesn't make it. That doesn't make it through the season. I'm almost certain that we're going to see that at some point. Where'd it go? Send it over. I've seen some of your messages. No, I'm not going to get into any fantasy stuff. I'm not getting into any fantasy talk. I'm not really concerned so much about what Cam Newton said about Colin Kaepernick. No. Maybe I'll put something up on the side about those two things. But in the Ezekiel Elliott. Yes, I will. Okay, so this year, I mean, Aaron Donald's coming up. His contract's coming up. He's the best defensive tackle in the game. Probably been the best since he came into the league, which is kind of crazy. He is the guy that I thought should have been the number 1 overall pick that year, and I thought the Bucs should have taken him. They didn't, but it's all good. Because he would have been paired next to Donald McCoy. Now, just or Gerald McCoy. Now, picture Aaron Donald and Gerald McCoy next to each other. I'm just saying. Your pass rush looks a bit different. But he's at the point right now, they're going to have to pay him. And I know the negotiations that's been going on, they're just not close. And again, this isn't something that, don't be alarmed, because this is something that's pretty common. We saw this with Von Miller. They'll come to the negotiation table. They're too far away. The athlete just says, nope. Because at the end of the day, if you're high enough, you're going to get the money. Just like Von Miller. He got the money. But what they have to do, what the front office wants to do, is they have deadlines that they have to respond by. Why rush? So they let it linger out intentionally. So they have a deadline, and sometimes they'll exceed that deadline, but they understand what's going to go on. And it's a dance that they play. So, I mean, he's making $1.8 million this season on his rookie deal, and $6.9 million in 2018, which is the last year. The Rams are picking up that 5th-year option. That'll come in April at the beginning of the new league year. But it's great. So one of the best defensive tackles in the league is making less than $2 million this year. That's crazy. So his contract, I see, it's going to have to be up there with, like I said, Von Miller, J.J. Watt, like DeMarcus, like DeMarcus Ware was at one point in time. I mean, he's up there as far as money and production. I mean, again, 4 years in the league. This is his 4th year in the league. Next year is his 5th. He has been more productive in his first 3 years than most guys are in career. It's just, he's that high of an, I mean, to be all pro all 3 years in the league is phenomenal. So they're going to have to pay him, to answer your question. There's no way around him. And they will pay him because he's the best in the league. Probably the next closest guy with his skill set in the league right now is probably Gerald McCoy. I know there's some Bucs fans out there. Again, they're pretty close in skill set. That's probably why they didn't draft him. That's probably why they didn't. But he could have played anywhere along the defensive line. He's that talented. All right, sorry about that. Let me see a few more questions. Let's take a look at him here. Okay, I get that. So in light of Hurricane Harvey or Tropical Storm Harvey, whatever, J.J. Watt's fundraising campaign for aid efforts surpassed $20 million in donations Tuesday, which is today. And he announced it on Twitter. So you can go see that over on Twitter. But Thursday afternoon, last Thursday, he announced he had more than $12 million in donations. He passed the $13 million mark Thursday night, before hitting $15 million on Friday and passing $17 million on Saturday. he has a flood relief fund, which you can go to. It's youcaring.com/victims of Hurricane Harvey -915053. And you can donate. It says right now, everyone can. Looks like he's had 187,000 supporters, and the total is currently 21,567,951 So the goal was 20 million. He surpassed that. So that is a very interesting. I'm seeing $50 1 minute ago, $100 1 minute ago, 20 a minute ago, 15, 20, 25, 100. And it's been shared. This link has been shared 480 times. 480,000 times. Now that's huge, because 187,000 people have donated, and it's been shared 480,000 times. So that means even though people are not donating, people are sharing it and getting the publicity. I'm pretty sure there's some people that didn't donate, that did share it, that got people to donate. Yeah, and they're estimating every share can raise about $37. Obviously, the math on it's off. This is obviously shared way more than normal. But, I mean, just looking at the total, let me refresh it real quick. So, all right. So that's and nothing's, again, it's also asking you to donate to the Red Cross to help those affected by Hurricane Harvey. The Red Cross does good work. I know some people are upset, and they get upset with some of these nonprofits. But I just want some people to understand. Now, funds, like J.J. Watt, I'm pretty sure he's not taking any cut of the $20,000 because he's trying to help people. But the Red Cross is a corporation. It's a nonprofit, but it's a corporation. So they have people that they have to pay. They have expenses. And they do get profits, in a sense. There is, if you look at the money that they have that goes out versus the money that they have on, they do have profit, but it's put back into the foundation or fund to grow it. So whereas profits for for-profit companies are sometimes divvied up into dividends for shareholders or owners of the company. So that's the thing. It's a slight difference. I hear people say, "Oh, they're a non-profit. they shouldn't make any money. Well, if they don't make money, they can't give to people in need. They can't. You're not typically going to have somebody working a 40-hour full-time job that's going to be a volunteer, that's going to be of quality. Typically, you won't. So you have to pay people. It's not because the people aren't good-hearted or don't care. Actually, it's the latter. They do care. To the contrary, they do care. That's why they want to work for the Red Cross. They see the mission and vision. That's why. But, unfortunately, they have bills like everybody else. So they have to pay those bills. So they have to be paid to pay those bills. If they didn't, I'm willing to bet if people didn't have, if cable, internet, electric, water, if everything was free, people wouldn't worry as much about what they were paid to do certain things. They probably would to a certain extent. But, I mean, you get where I'm going with this? If you have obligations, you have to attend your obligations. If it's financial obligations, you have to have funds to do that. So, I'll take one more question. Let's see here. Let me see here. No. I'm not really entertaining. See a couple people asking about what do I think about Sam Darnold after week 1? Did it kill his draft stock? No. No. It's week 1. Did it help Rosen? I mean, he led a comeback win over Texas, who people thought should have been ranked. So, yeah, obviously it helped his resume. But is he a different quarterback? No. I mean, they both are who they are. They're both NFL caliber quarterbacks. They will both get drafted in the first round at the top of the first round. Nothing has happened to this point to change that, especially not in week 1. What do I make of Baylor? Baylor is an interesting story. Baylor losing this past weekend, to Liberty, by the way. Big shout out to Turner Gill over at Liberty doing his thing. It's not upsetting for me. Baylor is struggling. They're a school that's been going through Title IX investigations. Baylor has been a school that's kind of hung around and found a way to compete through lots. I mean, they had a player murder someone on a team. They've had players rape fellow classmates, and now the school didn't see to it. So, under Title IX investigations, not criminal, but civil lawsuits, firing the coach that really has made football relevant there.
Thank you for using Blog Talk Radio. Goodbye.
It's been tough for the particular organization to continue its consistency. After all these issues, it's not surprising that they're struggling. I think they have more bad days ahead of them than good days, and if they get through this and are better for it, all the power to them. But it's going to be some time. I don't know if at the end of the Title IX investigation that they end up getting a death penalty or what it is, but it's going to be really, really rough on Baylor, because overcoming sanctions from the NCAA and recruiting is going to be tough. Finding guys to come there, play for them, being able to sell guys on why they should come there when they're facing these potential sanctions. Some guys will come. People will come because they want to play. And they may not get starting time elsewhere. But a lot of guys look for prestige. They look for how's it going to benefit them later. Oh, you played college football for the team that's being investigated for rape. Maybe that's tough. Maybe that's tough for some people. Maybe it's a turnoff for some people. Also, at the same time, you're probably not competing for titles. I know Lane Kiffin found that. Even at a prestigious school that has a history of winning titles, like Southern California, tough to get over that hump. It's tough to get guys academically qualified as it is sometimes, let alone not being able to have the scholarships to even offer. Stanford deals with that year in and year out because you have to qualify for the school before you can even enroll to play, to enroll and play football. Yeah, it's going to be harder there at Notre Dame. Yeah, that's fine. There are going to be schools that are going to have, again, because it's an extracurricular activity at the school. The school has a standard. They have a reputation to uphold. We're an educational institution. If we win national titles, we do. But at the end of the day, we're an educational institution. You know, that's funny because what the proposal was in 95 was Miami get rid of the football program because it's hurting the academic program. Whether it did or didn't, can't really say. The football team's still around. They have won a national title since then and have had some of the best football players in college and pro history walk through those doors since then. So to think that closing it down was beneficial, I'm guessing no, because those are probably a lot of boosters people donate to the school that are beneficial for them. So I'm guessing that not getting closed down actually worked out for them in the long run. So, see here. But Baylor, I don't know. They're not really on a radar for me. I think they were kind of a flash in the pan. For what it was.